Derek Carr was even better against the Panthers than you think. I'll tell you that right now. It's hard to even believe after the Saints demolished the Carolina Panthers in week 1. We all know Derek Carr was really, really good. We know the offense was really, really good. But he was actually better than I think we're giving him credit for. Ladies and gentlemen, I might as well be working at Auntie Anne's because all I'm doing is serving up glazing raisins. This is another glazing session here. The red light's on. Every time I turn around, there's a new metric, a new analytic, a new clip, a new highlight. And I'm going to bring some of my favorites that I've seen today. As you know, the 228 Syndicate, the betting group that I'm a part of, high level, we dig deep into the analytics. We're seeing things with our third eye, okay? And I want to share those with you today. So I've got a bunch of analytics, a bunch of clips, a bunch of stuff we're going to go through. But we're going to start first with Uncle Colin. We're going to start first, and trust me, all the people this offseason who are saying that the Saints were the worst team, Derek Carr was this, the Saints are going to be the number 1 overall pick, boring, lowest scoring team. Trust me, we kept the receipts, okay? So we're going to start with Uncle Colin. This is during his Blazing 5 selections before the slate. So let's see what he had to say about the Panthers and Saints.
Panthers at Saints.
I like the Panthers +4. In fact, I think they could win. You may want to bet money line. They've got a new head coach, Dave Canales. He's the one that gave Baker Mayfield that great season last year for Baker. They have upgraded on the O-line, edge rusher, wide receiver. Bryce Young.
We heard it's not, Colin's getting it right now, but we heard this all season long, right? We've heard it. We've heard the Falcons upgraded, the Panthers upgraded. When you're the Panthers, and I explained this to Panthers fans before the game, you can't say you upgraded on defense when you lost your 2 best defensive players. Getting Jadeveon Clowney but losing Brian Burns is not upgrading, okay? It's not how this works.
In the last month last year was not terrible. Completed 65% of his throws, mid-80 passer rating with a bad O-line and bad receivers. Dennis Allen, I think, argument, worst coach in the league. On the hot seat, their offensive line was 2nd worst in the league, and they didn't generate a pass rush.
Now, this is the flip side of that, okay? Offensive line was 2nd worst in the league. There's no mention of a complete scheme change. There's no mention of a completely new system. There's no mention of drafting Talise Fuaga, who happens to be the perfect fit for this system. None of that. This is just shallow as shallow gets, is what this is. Can't generate a pass rush. Okay. No mention of Cam Jordan hurt last year. No mention of Chase Young. No mention of this new 4 linemen, this NASCAR package, as I call it, where we're playing with Brian Brzee, Chase Young, Carl Granderson, and Cam Jordan. No mention of that at all. Just blanket stats from last year, shallow stats, just pulled them off the top with no context.
The Panthers defense, even last year, though it was on the field constantly, the Panthers defense was top 5 and 6 in many categories.
This is another one. And this isn't, I actually have this pulled up. This isn't just Colin. Our pal, Kurt Benkert, he said the same thing. This is another example of just taking a very shallow stat with no context at all. They were top 5, and he didn't even say the categories. They were top 5 in a category. You want to know what category that was? Passing yards allowed. Now, I already broke this down. I tried to explain it for Kurt Benkert so he can understand football for a second. But the reason that a team like the Panthers doesn't give up a ton of passing yards, this happens every year, is because they're losing the entire game. Why would the opponent throw on them? The Panthers didn't lead in the 4th quarter in a game last season. All they're facing is the run. Their opponents are shortening the playbook, running the football, killing clock, and getting out of there. That's why the passing yard stat is so misleading. That's why I always tell y'all, do not look at these shallow ESPN stats. Here's another fact for you. Because Kurt Benkert went a step further than Colin and flat out said they were a top 5 defense last year. They were dead last in, I believe, points allowed per game and dead last in turnovers forced. That is not the hallmark of a top 5 defense, I'll tell you that.
The Panthers win this game outright, take the points, 24-20.
It was close. It was close. If the Panthers would have stayed in the Superdome, if they would have stayed there for 2-3 weeks, they may have They may have got to 24 points. I don't know. But it's just unbelievable when you hear some of this stuff. It really is. I mean, it's absolutely shocking when you hear some of the commentary. So let's continue, shall we? Let's continue. Let's go here. Now, before we jump to the next thing, now there is a bit of a conundrum for Colin and the gang. Because now, what are we hearing, ladies and gentlemen? We're hearing that, well, it was just the Panthers, right? It was just the Panthers. They're the worst team in football. Well, then how come 48 hours before the game, I was hearing about how the Panthers have a top 5 defense? I was hearing about how they have this unbelievable offensive line. They bought this offensive line. They have 3 new offensive linemen. Why 48 hours before I was hearing about how Dave Canales was going to change Bryce Young's future? How come before that I was hearing about how the Panthers are a dark horse team to win the NFC South? How come before that I was hearing about how the Saints are a boring offense? And now all of a sudden, because there's a one data point for all these people, and they watch the score, they didn't watch the game. We know these analysts aren't watching the game. But because they see the score, and they can say, oh, the Panthers are the worst team. The worst team. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, these analysts, 24 hours, 48 hours before the game, they weren't saying that the Panthers were the worst team in the NFL. Au contraire. A lot of them had them over the win total. A lot of them had them winning the NFC South. A lot of them had them as a wild card playoff team. Can you even imagine? All right, the next one here. A little XY axis for you. X, a.k.a. horizontal, is the offensive grade from PFF. And then the Y-axis is the EPA per play for passes, rushes, and penalties. You can see where Derek Carr is. Derek Carr right here. Patrick Mahomes, Sam Darnold, who was fantastic. Baker Mayfield's up here, who was fantastic. Unbelievable. I mean, look at these grades. We're going to keep showing them. Next one up. This is PFF again. The PFF passer grades are out. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy play on Monday Night Football. They're not part of this. Well. Derek Carr, number 1 on PFF. Number 1. Pretty crazy, huh? Number 1 graded passer in week 1. Let's go to the next thing. Here we go. Best pass block grades in week 1. Number 1 is the Saints. Interesting. Number 1. The worst, or what can I say, the second worst offensive line or the second worst pass blocking, whatever it was. And look at this. Now, do y'all think this is just because of the Panthers? Because remember, the Panthers upgraded their defensive line according to Colin. Or do you think this is a complete scheme shift? Do y'all think this is Klint Kubiak fixing what was wrong with the team? Do you think the offensive line just got really good all of a sudden? No. This is letting players play to their strengths. Let's continue, shall we? Oh, thank you, Jacob. This is the Saints really went from dead last in both pre-snap motion and play action to first in pre-snap motion and third in play action. What did we say all off season? In today's NFL, assistants matter. Scheme matters. Coordinators matter. It's not 1995 where the head coach just calls the play and they're all running basically the same play and it's big man versus big man, line up and just see who wins. That's not it. That is not it. All of this matters. Like what they are asking, and that's why a couple of videos ago someone said that every team is running the same play. No, they are not. If you think the running plays that the Saints were running last year are anything close to what we're running this year, you are mistaken. If you think the formations and the sets and any of that is the same as what the Saints were running last year and what Denver is probably running over there, you would be mistaken. You don't accidentally go from dead last in pre-snap motion and play action to first in pre-snap motion and third in play action. That is not an accident. That is quite literally by design. Designed by Klint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator. And the craziest part about it is you could see it coming from a million miles away. Because all you had to do was take a look at what Klint Kubiak likes to do, what San Francisco liked to do, and then you just marry those two together and you assume what he's going to bring into New Orleans. And lo and behold, we were right. Let's continue, shall we? Okay, so this is a Chris Olave play. I had a lot of people reaching out to me and asking me about Chris Olave. And they said that, is this, like, he was unimpactful. and he didn't do anything, and he didn't have a good game. Again, au contraire. In this kind of a system, everyone has a job on every single play. This is not a system where you just roll the ball out there, Carr snaps it, and then it's just a get space, make a man miss, and then he's got to try and find you, and then it's one-on-one. That's not how this offense is. This offense is so deliberate that each player is being asked to do something every single snap. Just because, and this is another shallow stat, do not think just because Chris Olave doesn't have 10 receptions for 120 yards, it doesn't mean that he didn't have a good game. Watch Chris Olave on this play. This is not going to show up in the box score. Watch Olave. Now, the first thing, you may have noticed the motion, but this is Jamal Williams. Look at Olave. Boom. That block seals his touchdown. That block is the reason Jamal Williams gets his touchdown. Now, are you going to see that in his box score? No. You are not going to see this anywhere. Okay? But this is an A-plus play from Chris Olave. This is an A-plus effort. I mean, it's 40-10. It's 40-10. And he's out there looking for somebody to block. 40-10. He could have easily Olayed somebody, been taking the play off. That is not the case. Chris Olave is fully balled down, is what's going on here. He is playing real hard with 10 minutes to go, or 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter of a 30-point game. And he's out there blocking. If Robert Gallery would have done this, he'd still be in the league. And that's a deep cut. Iowa, Robert Gallery. I think the third overall pick to the Raiders. I thought Robert Gallery was going to be the greatest offensive lineman to ever live. I was wrong. Look at this. A+. But if you aren't watching the game on that next level, and you just go to ESPN box score and scroll down, and you don't even click the tab for advanced stats, and you just scroll down and you see 2 catches on 2 targets for whatever it was, 21 yards, then you say Olave was nothing. You just check your fantasy team. This right here, you got to be thrilled with this. Thrilled with this if you're Dennis Allen watching this today. I mean, this right here is better than any 8-yard out route that Chris Olave could have had. Hang this in the Louvre. I mean, this is unbelievable. Let's go next. Okay. I have this pulled up. I mean, I feel like I'm doing a science fair project or something. Oh, my God, this play. Oh, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just watch it. Let's watch it. Let's watch it. Every play is the same, right? Every offense is the same, right? Think about Pete Carmichael last year. Pistol Pete. Barnum and Bailey's favorite clown. Think about Pistol Pete last year and think about what the offense looked like. Look at this. Look at this thing of beauty right here. 23-0, first half. At this point right here, I've got a chicken tender basket. I'm sucking down the condimentless dome dog. We have Alvin Kamara is out wide. Rashid Shaheed is in the backfield. Is that Taysom at fullback? We have Olave here. I mean, just look at the set. Olave, Kamara's out wide, Rashid's in the backfield. Remember, we had 0 plays last season. 0. With 2 running backs in the game. That's not even advanced, okay? We never had 2 running backs in the game at the same time last year. Multi-back sets. Never. 0. We go from that to this. All right, this personnel, this package. Pete Carmichael's head's exploding right now looking at this. All right, but it gets better. Let's watch it. I mean, what do you say? It already was a thing of beauty. It already is a thing of beauty. But then we get motion. But then we get pre-snap motion. Like it's, I mean, Klint, you didn't have to go this hard. The package was already nice enough. Pause. Then you give me pre-snap motion. Let's see how it all plays out. Oh, Juwan's wide open? Juwan's wide open? You mean to tell me the guy motioning just so happens to end up being completely wide open? You don't think this is by design? You don't think this is intentional? Unbelievable. And then what a throw from Carr. What a throw from Carr there. I mean, this is I had this pulled up just to remind everybody. If you're typing right now in the comments and you say, if you're typing right now and you say it's just the Panthers, just delete that and put it was just a top 5 defense. Let's continue, shall we? Okay, this one's first. Now, this is a next-gen stat. Now, I don't want to lose you here. So you may think, like, okay, well, Derek Carr was throwing to open receivers. They were just wide open, right? They're just wide open as the Panthers, even though the Panthers had a top 5 defense. Even though the Panthers went out, and we know, thanks to Uncle Colin and Uncle Kirk, that the Panthers had a top 5 passing defense specifically last year. So you can't really say that. But if you do say that and say, like, well, they're just open, okay? First of all, they're open by design. So this is completion percentage. This is completion percentage over expected. And so what that means is you either go negative or positive over what your expected completion percentage is. So and they calculate that by determining how open players are and open receivers are. So if your expected completion percentage is 70, but you have a completion percentage of 60, then you are 10 percentage points lower than you should have been. So you could argue that you actually weren't as good as you should have been, even though 60% is okay, right? You could do it, obviously, you could do it any of those directions, where if you have a 40% expected completion rate, which means the receivers weren't open, it means that, and then you end up with a 60% completion percentage, then it's like, man, you really, really exceeded what was expected of you. You were way better than you should have been. Okay, so that's how you kind of dive into that. The reason I'm showing you that is because what did we say was a hallmark of this offense? Yak. What do you need to get yak? You need your receivers to be open. If every catch is a contested catch, that yak is not going to be there. The reason that the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Rams get a ton of yak is because whoever's getting the ball is an intentional play. They are getting the ball there because they are in space. So a high expected completion percentage shows a good offensive, like a good design. It shows a good design, and it shows that the receiver's generally open. Now, okay, that doesn't always lead to a high expected completion percentage or completion percentage. And I have examples. So the expected completion percentage for Derek Carr was 66.3. The expected completion percentage for Daniel Jones is 69.7. So Daniel Jones was throwing to receivers generally more open than the Saints were. So Brian Daboll, who is a great offensive play caller, was designing up and calling a hell of a game. But Daniel Jones was negative 17% on his actual completion percentage for a completion percentage of 52.4. You can look at someone like Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels had an expected completion percentage of 75.5 because he was checking down a lot. Okay? He actually ends up with a 70.8 percentage. So Daniels was worse than he should have been, even though you can look at a 70% completion percentage and you say, oh, that's pretty sweet, right? And you can look at a lot of these examples of that happening. Carr was 16% points higher than he should have been. So, as good as Carr was, he was way better than he should have been. He was not missing. 66.3 is fine. His expected completion percentage, if he would have ended up around there, even a couple ticks higher, ended up with 70%, that would have been fine. To go 16% over, that is when a quarterback is absolutely dealing. Absolutely dealing. Locked in. Like, it's hard to put into words how good that is. And then obviously you can look at a lot of other stats. I mean, you got air yards, and we go through all this, during the season. Like, I think Bo Nix, I think I saw a stat where Bo Nix's average air yards of completion was like, it might have been 0. It was something horrible. It was something really, really bad. I'll have to dig into it. I don't want to bore you. But I'm not going to look at these. But this is how you have to look at the NFL now. I've been saying it. I have a whole video on analytics. You can just watch casually and just kind of look at the box scores and kind of sift through that stuff. But if you aren't at a minimum looking at like this sheet right here, this is individual players. You can go to like teams and look at like YPP and stuff like that and DVOA. It's why we preach DVOA. You can look at those things, but I'm telling you, you got to dig into it to get the context and see what's really happening. I mean, I'll give you a great example of that. I'll give you a fantastic example of that. Here you go. Perfect example of that. You look at this. You look at just 24-17. You think, man, Caleb Williams is sweet. You think the Bears are sweet. They won. They covered. They're good. They're rocking and rolling. Then you look at this. You look at the box score, and you're like, wait a minute. Wait a second. Well, the Bears went 2 for 13 on third down. Wait a second. They had 2.8 yards per play. They were outgained 1.2 yards per play. Wait, does this say 64 passing yards? Wait, does it say 2.1 yards per pass? And then you go down and you see, wait, they had 10 minutes less of time of possession? What? Then you see, wait, their offense didn't score a touchdown? What? They didn't have an offensive touchdown? What happened? And then you dig into it and you see, oh, they were plus in the turnover margin. Then you see, oh, there was 2 defensive special team touchdowns. And then it all starts to make sense, right? So this is what we call in the business a fugazi box score. This is a fake box score. This is a bad win, okay? A lot of people say you can't have bad wins. Wrong. This is a bad win right here. Titans obviously should have won this game. They did not. They don't get any bonus points for that, but you as a fan and a bettor, you can be a better, as they say on VSiN, by understanding this kind of stuff. So if you just look at the Bears and upgrade them for this win, you are doing a huge disservice to yourself. You have to downgrade them for this win. You downgrade them because they should have lost, and the box score tells you the truth. 100%. That's how this works. You don't get upgraded when you get out of here with a 2.8 YPP. Doesn't work. When you have 10 minutes less time of possession at home, can't upgrade you. Yeah, they're 1-0. They're the same as the Chiefs. That's what I always say. There's good wins, there's bad wins, there's good losses, there's bad losses. But this was just an absolute treasure trove. An absolute treasure trove of some of the best analytics, stats, clips that I saw. There was another one with Talise Fuaga. I believe he was the highest graded rookie. I need to pull that one up too. Here it is. I actually retweeted this one. Pass block win rates and ranks for the rookie tackles. Talise Fuaga, 94% pass block win rate. Seems good, my boy. Seems good. Seems like he was okay. Wow. 94%. Not too bad. Okay? Not too bad, eh? But remember, it's against the Panthers, right? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next video.